welcome to another edition of the NexCare WellBridge Senior Living Conversation. We are actually on site here in the friendly confines of the WellBridge of Clarkston. And as always, we are pleasure to be joined by the CEO, Mike Perry, and also we're going to get a little bit of history. I won't date him, but you're going to find out a little bit more about his backstory, the chairman of the board, Mr. Jim Branscum. So please hang around, enjoy, and obviously get some incredible information on the NexCare WellBridge Senior Living Conversation. Well, Mike, obviously great to see you again here on the NexCare WellBridge Senior Living Conversation, and today you have a friend alongside you as well, and I'm very interested to find out a little bit more about Jim's background, but again, thank you both for being here. Should be a great conversation.
No, thank you.
Absolutely. I want to start just because, Mike, you're the pro at this. You've been on every single episode, and you've kind of been on the journey with me, but I guess, when did you first meet Jim? When did that bond form? And now, so many years later, I guess, what is that relationship like today with NexCare WellBridge Senior Living?
So Jim and I, we've known each other a number of years, but really, I think more officially became more colleagues and friends back around 2000. Jim was busy working hard in the nursing home post-acute business, and as was I. I was working in some different with a different organization, doing some out-of-state work. But we stayed in touch. Whenever I was in town, we would grab a beer or a cup of coffee. Our paths crossed a couple times up in Charlevoix when he was up north and I was up north, and we just kept the communication going. And I always looked to Jim as somebody I could lean on. Ask questions about, in my roles around the country as I was traveling around. It was somebody that didn't have any agenda with the company I worked for and just give me some straight up advice. And I always appreciated that about Jim. And then in around 2011 and 12, we started conversations about a new concept. Jim has worked a long time and he can talk about his chrysalis model. Worked a long time in reforming long-term care, more private rooms, different concept. And we had a lot of conversations about that and what that looked like. And right around 11 and 12, we got together with some other partners. And that dream, so to speak, became a reality. We had a construction site in the Brighton-Howell area, 88-bed, new facility, new model, private rooms, just a wonderful concept, and we started there and built it out. That facility opened in April of 2013, and since that period of time, we've opened 8 brand new state-of-the-art facilities here in Michigan. We're here at Clarkston, as you mentioned. This is our most recent facility, our newest facility, but we consider all of our facilities new. And then in 2015, and Jim can talk a little bit about, he had involvement and started a company called NexCare Health Systems. The group decided to merge, and we became NexCare WellBridge Senior Living.
I heard the number as we were just getting ready for this conversation. I heard 1959, I believe, and that was the first year that you were actually working in a healthcare facility, in a NexCare facility?
Yes. I started working and being around them more than working, I suppose, but I thought I was working. I'm not sure I was. But in 1959, so the etymology of all that is that my uncle, Dick Sumter, started in the senior care. They didn't call it that. At that time, it was poorhouses back in the early 50s. And he opened his first facility, I believe, in 56. It was in Livonia. And the second one was called Sumter, and that was in Canton. And the third one was Fairlane, and that's when I got started at the Fairlane, and that was built in 59, opened in 60, and so I was actually I was a kid, but to keep me out of trouble, he let me work construction, and I don't know how much he paid the contractor to have me help him, but so I've always been in it. I look at it and I laugh at it's so many elements of it, but I got started right there, and in '59 and in '60 when it opened up, I was there, and washing dishes and mopping floors if it was needed. And then it started evolving, but I have just wonderful memories of that period, because that was a very high growth for nursing homes at that time, the '60s. And most of it was because they were emptying out the county medical care facilities, the poorhouses in Wayne County, which is where we got most of our residents. And my first experience into walking into a nursing home was where you walked into a room and there were 16 people. And that's the old Eloise in Wayne County. And they started clearing those out in the late 50s and 60s, and that's what really caused the boom and the growth of nursing homes. You see, most of the nursing homes are built between 63 and 67, and it was because of that. There was the government, Title 18, Title 19 really caused a tremendous growth in nursing homes. And so I got to see, and it kind of comes back. I'm getting to why we have WellBridges now. But you got to lay a foundation.
Of course. And let me just cut in, because it seems like perception has changed quite a bit from 50s and 60s to what it is now. You mentioned poorhouses. It was then nursing homes. It's now senior living, obviously, and you see some of the amenities that NexCare WellBridge has. It's more individual, and I would almost say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, it seems like families are more open and happy and trusting, I guess, that their parents will be in a facility like this.
Yeah, but that's part of the evolution. When you go back and you look at where it came from, clinically, the very first nursing homes in the 60s, I'll just say, were not high clinically affiliated, or whatever you want to say. Most of them were homeless people, street people. That was our clientele, and at the time you could have a ward. You could put 6 people in a room, and I mean, they called that privacy, right? Yeah, right. So you had 6 people in a room, and you had
privacy,
and you had a gang bathroom at the end of the hall, and by the way, that was accepted. And you didn't have families then. You really didn't. What you had was homeless people and street people. And you had some that had, I mean, it wasn't like there wasn't any, but nothing like today. And so it's evolved. So early on, I got the taste of why that was wrong. And I always knew that the model the WellBridge model, Mike and I are going to look at this selfishly and say it's the best model. Well, we think it is, but at least it addresses and identifies some of the problems that we hope to solve. And one of it is identifying who our customer was so that we could solve it. And I early on identified, because we need to do that so that you have a goal. I early on identified that I think that my customer is the nurse's aide, the assistants, and how can I make their job the most pleasant? And because if I can make their job easy and pleasant, they take care of the resident makes the family happy, the family makes the regulators happy, and we all live happily ever after. So it was kind of, my thinking evolved from walking into Eloise and seeing the conditions there, and knowing that it could be better, and so we built Fairlane in 61 or 60, and opened in 60, and then the second phase we opened in 65, and I was involved in both of those, so I've always worked in them, and so I was blessed to be introduced to a business that I just loved being in. I never had any desire to do anything else. From the moment I walked into one, that was okay. It was okay. I knew there was going to be issues, and there's all kinds of issues, but they're all acceptable. And so I was doing what I wanted to do, and usually you do okay if you do what you want to do over time. We'll see. I've only been doing it 52 years, or is it 62 years? You feel like you have something to accomplish. And then over the years, when I decided that's what I was going to do, and I was blessed to be able to do it. I worked much like Mike. We both started washing dishes and mopping floors, and I worked in the laundry. That was always kind of what I liked to do. I never thought of myself as a clinical person, but I love the environment, and I saw what a good environment could do, and what a poor environment to do. So you create the right environment, you give the right tools to the right people, things get done right. But if you don't, it doesn't matter how much you throw at it, it's going to come out wrong.
Well, if you can, I guess talk a little bit more about the why you wanted to, get more involved in this space. Because, of course, everyone wants to be successful. You want to make your parents proud. You want to, do great things with your life. But it seems like in this space, it's so much more than that. You're trying to better the lives of so many other people and make sure that conditions that you're seeing, whether it be all around the country, whether it be here locally, are going to be better at your individual facilities, because that's going to make everything better.
Yeah, totally agree. And to answer your question, because I think it's the right thing to do. Having a better environment for like Jim said, the nursing assistants to provide the care, more private rooms, private bathing facilities. It just makes all the difference in the world. And like I said, it's just the right thing to do.
So Mike, for you, being around this space and getting, your hands dirty, to a certain degree at a younger age, you realized that this was something that you kind of wanted to get involved in and maybe make it your life's work. Meeting Jim then, getting to that point all those years later, how important was that, being able to lean on somebody who at that point, and I don't want to date you again, Jim, but he had been involved in this world for essentially 40 years when you two met. So how critical was that for you?
Frankly, it was invaluable, life changing. The opportunity to just initially talk to somebody that had no agenda in terms of what I was doing and the companies I worked for, and just bounce ideas off of. Was invaluable. And then having the opportunity to have discussions and have a like mindset of we want to do something different. I traveled around and was in many facilities in many states. And, one of the things that really resonated with me was as I traveled, I really, in toured facilities, I never encountered a public shower room that I necessarily wanted to be given a shower in. And so, being able to really change the landscape, and Jim was doing a lot of work on this early with the state to advocate for funding for this. And so I'm really leaning on him. And then as we got 2010, 2011, just really talking about what that might look like. And we both had a desire to do that. Was like I said, it was invaluable. And just the knowledge, I think I've had some years of experience, and then I talked to Jim and learned things even to this day. And then another really serious component to this is the access and ability for capital to do what we're doing. And Jim brought that to the table. And so, it's invaluable. You can have a dream, and we did, but be able to pay for it is a whole nother ball game. And this model is not an inexpensive model. Private rooms, private bathing facilities, that it can get expensive. And so having that ability through Jim and some of the other partners is just life-changing, invaluable. And when I think back when I first set foot in a facility in February of 1987 as a dishwasher, and I put away stock and brought carts to the nursing units and fed residents, to see a dream that's evolved over many years in terms of my career, and I think Jim's career, life-changing.
See, it's interesting that you bring that up because, and I want to get your thoughts when you first met Mike and, maybe when you started to think that things would align, but I think there was a show on ABC about CEOs going in and doing some of the entry-level positions that they hire in, to their company. How
Undercover boss.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, something like that. So how important do you think it was for both of you? Because it seems like you both got your hands, dirty and had various, part-time roles, some full-time roles on the ground floor. Some people get hired into a company and they're the CEO or they're, up in management and they don't necessarily know what's going on a day-to-day basis in those rooms. That, to me, has to be a huge piece of what NexCare WellBridge Senior Living is because you both have that experience.
Yeah. And Mike, we both come from the same cloth on that issue. And I had a leg up because I had family in the business, but I got to tell you, that didn't necessarily mean I had any advantages when it came to, dirty dishes are dirty dishes, They will be clean when you're through. And so, by the time we got into the WellBridge model, of course, I had been doing it for a while, and I actually got into the ownership in the early 80s. And then we started growing. I grew the NexCare. That was me. And so by the time Mike and I got to the WellBridge, a lot had happened. And one of the it's hard for people to believe, but you could not have built this building prior to the passing of the. We had the chrysalis model. The chrysalis model was this building, but the rules and regulations in the state of Michigan were such that you could only build a building of certain square footage. If it was more than that per, let's say there have 100 people, or 100 residents, you could only build so many square feet. So they required you to build semi-private rooms at best, and usually it was wards. 2, 3, 4 people to a room by law. And so I had to go in, myself and others, but primarily me, to get a law changed that said you could build a private room building. And so it all had to do with reimbursement because they would not reimburse it. And so we got that done. And soon afterward, we started taking existing NexCare buildings and downsizing them, which we've literally downsized probably a little over 400, almost 500 beds out of our, so that we can create, taking 4s, making them 2s, 3s, 2s, 2s, 1s, and doing that. And over time it's worked. And then we were able to develop from that, they call it the new model. This is a new model, which meant you had to have, you could have a minimum of 80% private rooms, which we do that and more. And so once I got that passed, I decided, well, I'm gonna start building them. But I really didn't, I decided to, I didn't do it. There's two different things. And so when I got serious about it, I knew I needed to also have someone who had the same vision that could execute it. It's one thing to build it and to say, oh, isn't that nice? Now what do I do? What I do is identify and hook up with Mike, and his eyes were bigger than mine. I saw a facility, he saw an industry, and a much bigger picture than I did, and that's why we built more of them. Because, okay, now there's the back room and the front room. I'm myself and Frank Ronsky and Leo Eisenberg, who are the original partners in the WellBridge, and I brought them into the NexCare scheme, so that now we're all owned. It's just one company now. We call it what it's called, but it has, like everything else, it's an evolution, not a revolution. It always looks easy, and at the end of the day, but 50 or 60 years in the making, overnight success. So, yeah. But that's how we went from those. I can remember when my uncle back in at Sumter and Livonia, 6 people to a room, and looked at the old Army beds and bathrooms and showers at the end of the corridor, to where we are today. And we've had something to do with that change, and I'm proud of that.
No, it's fascinating. So I guess with obviously so much success with NexCare, and it being certainly different as you were building it, you then totally separate thing is the WellBridge side of things, after you were able to build these facilities the way that you wanted to do them and get the laws changed. I guess a couple of years later is when your leadership team decided, you know what, we're going to bring this all together. I guess, what are those conversations like? What was the tipping point that made you want to do that? And at this point, what is the difference, I suppose, between NexCare, WellBridge, or do you pretty much have everything working in concert with one another now?
Well, I can answer the first part of that question. I'll let Mike answer, because that's operational, and I don't know how he does it. So I owned the NexCare side, and myself, Frank, and Leo, and Mike, and our other partners, Todd and Dick, were involved in and I brought we decided to join up for the WellBridge side, and I actually, Brighton was the first of the WellBridge. I had already started that, and then I just wanted guys that I've known all my life, and Frank Ronsky and Leo Eisenberg, they're like me. I've known them for 40 or now 50 years. So we're all graybeards, and we knew what we wanted to do, and this was what we wanted to do. And they had been in the business, and they'd sold out, and they were, what are they going to do? Well, let's do this together. And so we did. And after we got into the WellBridge construction mode and operational mode, and it was doing just fine, and we saw what Mike could do with it, and that he was really able to do much more. I thought, well, okay, on the NexCare side, I have that company, and I would like him, and I said, why don't we, my vision is to let Mike be the CEO of all of them, because he knows what to do and he knows how to do it, and let's all just join forces. And then the mechanics of how we did it is not as interesting as that story, but that's how that evolved. It went from 2 separate companies, which I was probably the godfather of both of them, if you will, but just bringing them together.
How, this is probably a layup question, a home run. I'm lobbing one down the middle for you to bang out of the park, but how exciting are those conversations when you're talking about NexCare, been around for a very long period of time, done such a good job with, and now you get this, new WellBridge, you're changing the game, and the conversations of, man, we can really align and just change everything in this industry. That had to be just exciting, overwhelming, but exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Just the excitement on the WellBridge side, and then to be in discussions to say, hey, we've got some other facilities that perhaps are not brand new, were built in the 60s and 70s and that time frame. For me to then be able to say, okay, we have partners that are willing to invest to make those better. And there's only so much you can do with what you have. But I've worked for a number of companies that would never have done what Jim described of taking beds out of service, taking the 3s to 2s, 2s to 1s, 4s to 3s, where we could. And that requires support. I mean, it's, you got to look at the revenue implications, renovations and those types of things. So it just was another layer of excitement, another layer of a lot of work for sure. But I felt like bringing the two together to create the NexCare WellBridge Senior Living, pulled synergies that the two organizations had. Created some efficiencies and reduced some redundancies. So operationally, it made a lot of sense. It was a merger of sorts, and any merger, I think, has a process that it has to go through to end with that end culture that the organization is all about. And I think we went through that. We were very deliberate in our actions, and did a lot of listening early on. And we did this. We started that journey in August of 2015. Early on, it was a lot of listening, and the whole idea was let's take the best practices from both organizations, and just understanding that both organizations have very good things they're doing, and let's take the best of both to create the new NexCare WellBridge Senior Living. And one of the things I had to do very early on was I had to talk to our team and say, because we would have team members say, well, that's the NexCare side, or that's the WellBridge side. And I said, look team, it's not sides. We're all on this together. It's not the offense and the defense, it's the team. Right. And we've got to all work together. And it was a process. There were some bumps in the road for sure, but I think we pulled it together. We have a great team now. We understand the strengths of our organization. For me, it's exciting to work in a portfolio where we have facilities that are in the 60s and facilities like this that are brand new. It keeps me busy. We have a lot of diversity within our organization. We operate solely in Michigan, as everyone knows, but we have facilities in Detroit. We have rural facilities. We have suburban facilities. So it keeps us busy for sure. But that I think we're where we need to be, and NexCare WellBridge Senior Living and pulling the strengths of both organizations to now have one large positive organization.
With everything fully aligned, together at this point, it's NexCare WellBridge Senior Living, and we're going to, continue to say that and obviously move forward together. But I guess, what is the vision? What is the next step? What does NexCare WellBridge Senior Living want to accomplish? Yeah.
The NexCare are existing nursing homes, and most of them are those that were built in the 60s and 70s. And then you have the WellBridge. And at first, I was convinced that was two separate businesses. And my thinking's evolved to where now I see that one of the things that I'm looking forward to is taking an existing building and WellBridgeizing it. You may misquote me anytime you wish on that word. It is brand new. Yeah. You look in a dictionary, you won't see it. And so that's kind of what I think is one of our next things is how do we take existing facilities, renovate them to where they can do this, because that will be our next horizon. Building new buildings, it may or may not happen, But I can assure you that the existing buildings can be renovated nicely too, and we're proving that. We have an opportunity in Detroit with Fairlane to do that as much as we can, and we're doing it. And it opened my eyes to what you could do if you just slowed down and said, quit saying no, just say yes to something and let it happen. So that's what I see as one of our next business opportunities, is doing that.
And Mike, I guess for you on a day-to-day basis, now that, again, everything is aligned together, it's not, hey, NexCare side, WellBridge side. No, we're all one now. We're all together. For you, overseeing everything, being so involved, what is the utmost priority here as we do move forward?
Our biggest priority right now is taking care of our staff. We're in a pandemic. We're not out of it. We've got the Delta variant right now, and there's a lot going on related to that. Staffing is our biggest challenge. Making sure we have adequate staff, and the staff we have, that we're taking care of them, because if we do that, and Jim touched on the nursing assistants throughout his career, but all our staff, including them, if we take care of them, then we're going to take care of our residents. And so, that is our biggest challenge right now. It's every day, making sure we got the right people, that we've got our HR and talent department, recruiting, retaining, selling the culture. I think the last podcast we had Kristen on, who heads up our talent development group, talking about our culture, and that's our biggest priority, and then kind of coupled with that is all the infection control, understanding the guidance, the vaccinations. That's taken an enormous amount of time right now, operationally and with our clinical teams. But we have a great team, and they're doing a great job, battling this. And I've said this to anybody that'll listen. Frankly, I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I wasn't in this position with the right partners guiding the way, and the right staff. Taking the charge every day. I look at some of these other organizations and some other places I've been in my career, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, gentlemen, appreciate the time. Obviously, covered a lot there. 60 years worth, essentially, of the history.
I've got a lot. You're going to
you want to continue?
Do you need a new battery?
Yeah, generator.
Fantastic time here on the NexCare
thank you.
WellBridge Senior Living
Thanks.
Conversation. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.